Okay, so I'm here on day 2 of my video game review for the Fatal Frame series. Things have been really weird. I was attacked by a ghost last night up in my attic, and I've been hearing things around the house. Strange things running by me, and it's super scary. It's like the Fatal Frame games are coming to life, and I don't know why. And all I have to go on is that I have my own camera obscura. It works, I guess, and I have this photograph that showed up from, I'm guessing, the attic, and on the back of it was play. So it's telling me to play Fatal Frame 2, so let's get to it.
Fatal Frame 2, Crimson Butterfly, is perhaps the most popular and influential entry in the Fatal Frame series. In terms of design and approach, Crimson Butterfly is as different from the first game as you can get, and those differences are made immediately apparent from the first beginning moments. Leaving behind the enclosed location of Himuro Mansion, the game begins outdoors on the forested road leading to the Minakami Village, otherwise known as All Gods Village or the Lost Village. Half of the game takes place outdoors, and the other half is divided between several mansions, an abandoned shrine, and a very creepy cemetery. This time around, you play as Mio and Mayu Amakura, twin sisters who become separated in the woods before eventually finding themselves in the fabled All Gods Village. The atmosphere and lighting are terrific in this game, with every mansion and area taking on their own distinctive look. The visuals have received a major upgrade with more complex and higher-res 3D models and enhanced lighting effects. Out of everything, it has to be the story and the style of the game that have changed the most from the first entry. Whereas the first game tried to be realistic and genuinely spooky, the second game takes on an almost Japanese anime style approach that gives a certain lightness to the game. The story is pretty fun overall and has many twists and turns. And the coolest addition is a motivational element to save your sister and to escape the village at all costs. To involve the player in this conflict, the game switches between Mio and Mayu at certain points in the story. You primarily play as Mio, and when you switch off, Mayu is always being led somewhere else by glowing crimson butterflies. Along the way, more of the story is revealed, as well as some rather unpleasant characters. It's funny, whenever I play Crimson Butterfly, I'm never really scared like I am with the other games. Instead, I'm given chills, as there are unique moments to this entry where you're left defenseless and being chased by enemies that can kill you instantly. There also just seems to be more scares with ghosts interacting with and crawling out of the environment, as well as sometimes targeting Mayu instead of Mio, which really changes things up when you play through the game again. I found the camera controls this time around were a little too sensitive most of the time and tended to jump around a lot. This made capturing ghost events much harder and some ghost battles a little more difficult than they should have been. Also, the game has many side quests and ghost hunt events that really promotes further exploration into the game, as well as adding great replay value. Out of all the Fatal Frame games, I think that Crimson Butterfly has the best camera angles of all. Perfectly placed and highly cinematic, Crimson Butterfly's camera angles evoke the perfect amount of dread and suspense to set the stage for a scary good time. Even though it isn't as dark and gritty like the original game, there's plenty of scares and chills to be had with Crimson Butterfly, and it still stands as one of the best in the series in terms of story and production value.
Okay, so that was Fatal Frame 2 for the PlayStation 2. Now it's time to switch over to Project Zero 2 Wii Edition, which is going to be a whole nother experience. So I'm going to switch out the PlayStation 2 and hook up the Wii.
In 2012, a remake of Crimson Butterfly was made for the Nintendo Wii, with brand new 3D models, vastly updated textures, sound, and additional game modes. New endings were added in, and all new cinematics are created for the remake as well. The idea was to remake the game with all of the advances present in Fatal Frame 4 Mask of the Lunar Eclipse, and for the most part, the game succeeded on all fronts. Unfortunately, neither game made it to the US. However, Crimson Butterfly for the Wii was released with full English voice acting and complete English translations, but only in Europe and under the PAL format, as well as the original Japanese title of Project 02 Crimson Butterfly. That's the version I own, and I'm currently playing using some special Wii software that has a Force NTSC compatibility feature for US televisions. The game itself pretty much plays the same, but it has several differences that are pretty interesting. To start with, the controls are radically different with the Wiimote and Nunchuck. I've read some have had issues with the Wii controls as opposed to the old PlayStation 2 controller, but I find that the Wii controls are actually better than the gamepad. One controller handles movement, and the other controls the camera. Together, it's a very organic and natural feeling control scheme, and really creates an authentic camera-like experience that a gamepad just can't do. The voice acting is an interesting change, with everyone having British accents.
We used to play here a lot, didn't we?
But I have no complaints compared to the original voices. Their overall performances are about even in my opinion. There are certain graphical upgrades I like to point out. The first is the dust in the flashlight as you move from place to place. It's a fantastic touch that was added to Mask of the Lunar Eclipse, and really helps give the game that genuine horror movie feel a lot of other games simply miss. The fog effects have received an upgrade, as well as the falling leaves on the other side of the Kiryu house, which are just a joy to watch. Not all the upgrades are that great though. With the Wii controls being what they are, there were instances where my character would be moving on her own, usually to the right or left depending on my grip or position. Also, the Wii controls really make aiming the camera a chore at times, especially when trying to capture a hard-to-get ghost event. The camera would often swing wildly as soon as I brought up the camera mode, and I would have to quickly correct myself to get the shot. Visuals, though enhanced overall, actually make the game less scary. There seems to be more lighting overall, where the original was mostly lit by flashlight, and the textures seem to be more colorful and bright. Even though they're more detailed, the sheer lightness of the textures kind of softens the tone of the game, whereas the previous textures were more dark and decomposed looking. Also, the wonderful cinematic fixed camera angles are gone, and have been replaced with the same screen-filling follow camera from Mask of the Lunar Eclipse that I'm not much of a fan of in general. The character animations in Project 02 are actually really strange at times. The originals seem more controlled and natural, but the newer animations seem to be more loose and anime-like, which kind of kills some of the tension and believability. The game also has some odd bugs that I've encountered during my playthroughs. One basic one is that there are many times where the game stutters and slows down with moments of high detail or intense graphical effects. The game is indeed one of the better looking games on the Wii, but it's still strange to see how much of it pushes the system to its limits, even when Nintendo limited the system to standard definition. I can only imagine how it would have been if the game had been released on another system in full HD. Another bug is that sometimes ghosts that are supposed to appear simply don't show up, or need to be triggered again before they'll make an appearance. This makes ghost hunts a little tricky at times, and sometimes confuses you during the main story, but it's seemingly random, so it doesn't interfere with the game much at all. The last bug I encountered was on Chapter 8, where you have to get all the pieces to a puzzle box inside a cave built under an old tree to finish out the chapter. During my first playthrough, I immediately went to look at the puzzle, and I suddenly had all the pieces and solved the puzzle right away. It was pretty funny to see my total chapter time being only a few minutes long, but if I didn't know anything about the game, then I would have unknowingly skipped a large part of the story that way. The biggest alteration of the entire game is the way to unlock all the different endings. It all essentially comes down to Chapter 8, the next to last chapter of the game, and it depends on whether or not you take Mayu around with you to see certain bonus scenes. From there it can change depending on both your difficulty and how fast or slow you are to beat the final boss. I thought this was a brilliant idea, but I wish they could have gone further with that and added other bonuses or features in-game to add more replay value, as well as various other ways to determine the ending. As a remake, Project 02 for the Wii excels on all levels, but when compared to the original, it's almost an entirely different experience. Crimson Butterfly for the PlayStation 2 is much scarier than Project 02 for the Wii in my opinion, but as a game, I actually prefer playing Project 02 for the sheer amount of content and replayability. So, there you have it. That was Project Zero 2 for the Nintendo Wii. Now, we're going to go back to the PlayStation 2 for the next installment, but for now, I'm just going to clean things up and go downstairs, watch some TV, and hopefully get through the night. So, see you tomorrow, guys. What the? What is that? Got something to fish that out? Oh no. 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 I'm not jumping in there for that. No. I don't have any swim trunks on. I'm not even a good swimmer. No. It might be scary. I don't care. I will just wait until morning. There is no reason that I have to jump in there right now. There's no way. It's not happening. Hey. Is the water good?
You know what? Yeah, it is.
Oh, good. Move on over.
Okay, have at it.
Oh, you lied.